TheCoolKitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make hotcakes, or as the Japanese call it, hotcakes. It's a type of pancakes that are very fat and very big and really fluffy, and you can eat them just like pancakes, or you can put different toppings on them. What I'm using is butter, and I'm going to melt it just to liquefy it so that it's easier to incorporate. And you're looking at about 30 grams of butter for this particular amount of butter. Okay, so my butter is melted and I'm using a whisk, just a normal whisk, just to whisk up the flour and the baking powder to combine it really well. Altogether it's 1 1/2 cups of flour for 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Next thing, just pour my butter onto it slowly. While you're still stirring, just add a little bit of milk at a time. Now this all depends on what kind of flour you're using. You could be using, for example, rice flour if you're gluten intolerant and things like that. So it's really one of those things that you just have to get the texture right. And all we want is for it to form a uniform mass. So you don't want it to be too liquid. You want it to be the same texture as toothpaste, more or less, so quite thick and sticky. So this is it, a very sticky, stiff batter. Now next thing we're going to add is our eggs, and we need to separate them. So I've got my bowl. What you're looking for is a bowl that you can whisk the egg whites to like a frothy consistency. So I'm just using my KitchenAid bowl here. So I'm just going to break them straight into here. And just make sure that there's absolutely no yolk in the whites. And then you're just going to put your yolks in with the batter. So I'm using 2 eggs. As you can tell, this is quite a sticky consistency, and what we're going to do, just to make it easier for the egg whites so that they're still very frothy, we're going to add a little bit more milk, because we don't want a runny batter for this or else it won't work, but we want it smooth enough so that the egg can easily get mixed in. So all in all, I have used the equivalent probably of like 1 1/2 cups of milk. So that's the same amount as the flour, but again, it really depends on the type of flour you're using, and it's better to look at the consistency rather than the actual measurements. So here, as you can see, it's a lot easier to lift up. It drops off, and this is the consistency we're looking for. It's whenever your arm can easily go through it without feeling like a workout. So another good trick for egg whites in general is adding salt to it. I'm just adding about the equivalent of a good pinch of salt into it, and that will help it rise, well, fluff up quicker and better. And then I'm using a balloon whisk type thing. Now you can whisk this by hand. I've done it many a time, but this just saves a lot of effort. You can use just those manual ones, like whatever gets the job done. So this is the consistency we're roughly looking for with the egg whites. Now I know that if you're doing it by hand, if you're whisking it with just a normal whisk, it's going to take you for ages to get it to like a meringue thing, and you really don't need it. So it's just one of these, like, it's almost like a whipped cream consistency. Like, it still moves, but it's frothy throughout. And that's what we're looking for, because all we want is to bring air into the batter. And it really doesn't need that much. So I'm putting about half of it in and using the whisk slowly to like fold it in. So just trying to incorporate it just a little bit. And once it's like starting to mix in, we want to use a spatula. And then we're just going to start folding it roughly. And this is only the first half of the batter, so you can still be a little bit more rough with it. And then for the second half. Now, as you can see in my one, I've got a few lumps, and actually I don't really have an excuse for that other than I've never used this flour before. But you know, this is home cooking, you know. You're not gonna get a Michelin star for this.
Cheeky.
Okay, this is our batter come together. Now, what I'm using, I've got my pan just heating up, number 3, so that's it's between very low and medium, kind of halfway there. And I'm just going to be using some olive oil for this, just like, you know, not good quality, just like, you know. The stuff that you get at the bottom of the shelf in the supermarket. And just gonna let just put it a little bit higher, just so that the olive oil spreads. Now, for these pancakes, you want to keep the temperature quite low, but not too low that it takes like an hour to cook it. But you know, never go past medium. Always keep it around that kind of heat, because it's such a thick pancake, you want it to slowly cook, to be able to cook throughout and not burn at the bottom and all that. You really don't want to deal with that. So yeah. And again, this is such a makeshift recipe, I'm so sorry. Our ladle was dirty, so I'm using a cup because it's just as good. And we're just gonna ladle it in, use the whole pan, and I'm gonna be using half the batter to just cover the bottom of this. Now, regular hotcakes can be really, really thick. You can, if you want, put the whole batter in, but it'll just take ages to cook, and you'll have to cook it even lower. So I suggest just put half the recipe in and let it sit. Just let it chill out in the pan. Don't try to, you know, hurry it up. So in real hotcake style, I'm gonna put a lid on it. It fits. And we're just gonna let it sit there. This lid is actually really handy because it's see-through, so you can see through it. And it's starting to bubble up already. And what we're looking for is for the batter to slowly but surely cook through. And whenever the surface looks like it's dry, this is not like American style pancakes that you want to get both sides brown and stuff. You want to let the surface go quite dry, because that means that then there's structure in it, and then we'll flip it over. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is that I am using a non-stick pan, and it's a really good idea to use a non-stick pan for this project, because it'll just save you so many headaches. Even those, like, you know, Le Creuset kind of non-stick, no, just use one of the real non-stick pans. For pancakes, it's just the best thing that you can use, because it'll just come right off and save you a lot of bother. So as you can tell, it's starting to really dry out. Now the lighter parts are the ones that are still a little bit wet, so it's not time to turn it yet. But what you can do now is already start just lightly poking the edges in order to make them lift off the edge of the pan, and that'll make it a lot easier to flip once it's properly cooked. So just a test to see if you've properly oiled it and if it's ready to flip over is you shake it, and my one's released. Sometimes you have to proper go at it, and then it will release. And you have to show his balls. And then just lifting it up very gently. You can see it's starting to brown up beautifully, and that's what we want. That's the kind of look we want. Kind of like pita bread kind of thing. And don't try flipping it. You know your boundaries. And you just gotta go, whoops. Flip it with your spatula. And
happy days, love.
Just eat these little bits, because amazing.
Coolness.
Now, this one's going to probably stay in there for probably like another minute, just so it starts, you know, burning up slightly on the other side, and then we'll cook the second one. So here's our pancake. As you can see, it's quite thick and fluffy. I'm just going to cut into it to show you what it's like inside. And you can see it's quite airy and fluffy and delicious. It's really good. Now, something that can happen sometimes if the temperature was too high, or depending again on what flour you're using, it might be a little bit too gooey inside. Now, this is a question of taste and a question of, you know, a lot of things. So it's actually very forgiving, because just cut it open, test it, and if it's too gooey, just put it back on to the pan for another half minute, and then test it again. You know, I mean, unless you're serving this on a date and it needs to be perfect, but it's always better to have the inside, you know, properly cooked through, because you don't want to eat a pancake that's like sticky, like oozing all over the place, and you've got the Nutella with it, and you're like, oh, and the person that you're serving it to is like, oh god, that person doesn't know how to cook. You know, just try it out, taste your food. This pancake has not been sweetened at all, and that's how we eat our pancakes. Now, I do know the traditional hotcakes are sweet, so if you want to have it sweet, work away, do it, you know. Honestly, I'm sure it would taste really good, but this is why we don't actually sweeten it, is because the stuff that we put on it is going to be very sweet. We put honey, we put jams, we put chocolate spread, you know, we even mix and match stuff on it, and so you actually, it will not make a difference. Actually, it'll probably be better because it's not sweet, because then you've got that slight contrast, because we did put some salt in there, just a tiny little bit, and it will, you know, it will be good. But actually, you know what? We haven't done that before, but you could probably even eat this with like salty foods. You know, you could put, I don't know, ketchup on it. No, you could put ham and cheese and egg and all that sort of stuff on it if you want to. So this is just our take on the hotcakes that you can find in Japan, and it's a good alternative to pancakes, also because it doesn't have that really strong, pungent baking soda taste that I honestly really can't have at all. It's like, it's like it's just like someone just slapped salt on your tongue and you're like, oh, water. If you try this recipe, and I really suggest you do, because it's amazing for breakfast and it takes no time at all, and even like a, you know, weirdo like me can make them, honestly. So if you do make them, actually it would be really good if you took photos and sent them to us. We would love to see what you're making, and see if you like it. And if you like this video, press thumbs up, and if you want to see more of our videos, our future videos, press subscribe. The exact ingredient list that I used in this video will be in the description below the video, so if you just press show more, you'll see all of the different ingredients, and you won't have to watch this video like 10,000 times. So thanks for watching, bye.